I just had the luxury of spending 48 hours with 5 top producers throughout the country. We did a retreat together. I'm talking about a guy that's done over 400 units in a year. A lady who is one of the most followed mortgage originators on social media. Someone who runs a branch doing $100 million a year, of which her personal production is $50 million. I was with people that are published authors in DISC personality profile experts. And in this episode, I'm going to bring you the notes, the stories, and the learning lessons that I was able to pick up after spending 2 whole days with these 5 top producers. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children 18 plus. You are tuned in to the Loan Officer Podcast with me, Dustin Owen, and my main man,
JC.
John Coleman.
Yo, what's poppin'?
JC, I am already missing Chicago, Illinois.
I am not.
Well, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've been to Chicago at least half a dozen times in my life.
And it's going to be
like starting at 18, now I'm 46, so you do the math, however many years that's been. I've been going to Chicago at least every 3 or 4 years. Jesus. And I've had the opportunity to go twice this year. Now, truth be told, normally when I go to Chicago is to visit family. Mm-hmm. This was a work event, and we're going to talk about the work event because it was TLOP Coaches Retreat. Coach Gwen and I got together. Coach BK and I got together. Coach Ross and I got together. Mm-hmm. Right? Coach Ross, he's the dude that does 400 units a year.
Easy money.
Yeah. Coach Gwen, awesome story. She started as a loan partner. She quickly became a loan officer, has built her business to where she's never made a cold call. She does $50 million a year minimum.
What?
$50 million a year minimum. Her branch does well over $100 million. Her best year was $91 million. So she has an incredible story to tell. And then Coach BK, yes, he is a consistent $30 million producer. He's a branch manager. His branch will do over $100 million this year. But I love his story because he talks about being the guy that he was and how that wasn't working. And then him going through a total metamorphosis, becoming the guy he is today, which is his true self, and the 2-year journey that he took to get there. By the way, his journey was actually on a bus with his wife and his 3 kids, hitting 40 states, living out of a Series A, Class A bus, and homeschooling his kids before he ended up in the city and the state that he lives now, which isn't the city and state that he started, right? So all 3 incredible podcasts. Hey, on that note, John, let's do this. I promised people notes and stories. Let's go ahead, make some time for today's show sponsor, then we'll come back and I'll just rapid fire through each coach. Loan officers, mortgage brokers, let's talk CE. You know you got to do it, but you know it doesn't have to suck. MLO Force gives you NMLS approved continuing education in a podcast style format. Real conversations, real instructors, no boring slides. And just for you, listeners and viewers of the Loan Officer Podcast, MLO Force is going to offer you the following: 7-hour federal CE, every required state elective, unlimited access for one price, all for just $125. There are no hidden costs and there are no catches. Sign up now at mloforce.com/TLOP. That is mloforce.com/TLOP. MLO Force. Learn smart, finish fast, move on. There we have it. So I'm going to do this, I say in no particular order, but really in the order that I wrote notes.
That's an order.
So like I said earlier, part of the retreat was a full meeting, right? Like we started at 9, we ended at 5. We actually John recorded this for us, but a really cool fireside chat.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Which we did for the entire TLOP community. But part of what we did also was we made every coach present. And I wanted them to show up with their best 15 minutes. And a little bit was all of us getting a chance to see how they performed. It was us getting a chance to learn their isms, their vernacular, their superpowers. And it was a way for us to provide feedback. And what's really cool is you may have someone who's an amazing producer, but telling their story is new to them. So they need the group's participation, figuring out, hey, how do I best tell this story? Mm-hmm. So the first guy that spoke was Coach BK. So Coach BK is a almost 20 year veteran. I think he's been in the industry since like 2008, 2009 timeframe. Second generation. So mom and dad are both in the industry. Dad's an originator. Dad still is an originator. A shout out to Joe Kimball. He's a reverse mortgage specialist, lives in the panhandle of Florida these days, but Brian was raised in Orange County, California. And Brian came into the industry where it was all about the fancy clothes and all about the flashy cars. And he still loves cars, but it was all about like living that lifestyle. And he was a part of some coaching programs that they would judge you based on how you dressed and how much money you made. And Brian quickly woke up one day. He's like, wow, I have the $1 million house. I have the fancy car and I'm miserable. And he talks about this in his podcast episode, which is one that's definitely worth going back and listening to. But he's like, I'm medicating myself, i.e. drinking in order to go to bed. I'm medicating myself in order to get through my day, i.e. like loads of caffeine. No part of me is feeling fulfilled. There has to be more to life than just this. And his answer was to literally sell everything. Bought a Class A bus, loaded up his family, and they went on the road.
That's the dream.
For 2 years. Now, he still worked. He still originated loans. But he worked a lot less, he said. He spent quality time with his wife and kids, and they homeschooled the kids because obviously they were on the road, and they got to visit 40 states. I remember he told me he lived in Glacier National Park for like 2 months, which is like one of my favorite places to visit. Yeah. And, he stands today a mortgage professional who's going to personally fund $30 million this year, whose branch will do $50, $60 million this year. And he's one of our coaches, but he's somebody that can only operate with being a massive relationship guy and having crazy amounts of organization and system and systems. Yeah. Right? Because he was one of the first virtual guys. You got to think he went virtual before COVID. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like he did this during COVID. No, he did his whole like transformation bus voyage pre-COVID. He now operates a total virtual branch. He has loan officers in 5 different states. His processor's not in his same state. His loan partner's not in his same state. And he's been operating this way, very high functioning since before COVID. So we love having Brian on the coaching staff because Brian gives us that coach who really understands the importance of systems and processes. He coaches our students through systems and processes. Yeah. And he himself can talk work-life balance. He lives it. Most of us talk about it. This dude lives it, but he says he can only have great work-life balance because he dominates his relationships. So he really craves what a great relationship builder he is and a relationship keeper he is, which then allows him to have incredible work-life balance. So the couple notes that I had from Brian, which is something that he said he didn't come up with, it was coached to him, but it's just a reminder that we all only have 1,440 minutes per day. How do you choose to use them? Like, how do you choose to use your minutes? Brian's like, I choose to use my minutes, and he broke it down for each and every single one of us. Brian also taught us how to prioritize things, right? He taught us how he made us get out an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and break it out into 4 quadrants. He said in the upper left quadrant, this is stuff that he says it's urgent, so you got to do it. So it says do this. In the right quadrant, upper right quadrant, it says not urgent. You decide this. Decide when to do it. The lower left quadrant is the delegate this. And then the bottom right quadrant is delete this. And again, this wasn't a Brian Kimballism. This was what he calls the Eisenhower Matrix. So I'm sure it's probably Dwight D. Eisenhower. But I'd never seen it broken out that way for someone trying to figure out, how do I get everything done that I need to do? He's like, well, first you have to figure out what's a priority, right? So what's urgent, what's not urgent. And if it's urgent, you can do it or you can delegate someone else to do it. If it's not urgent, you can decide when to do it or you can just totally delete it. So to me, that was my 2 biggest takeaways from Brian's presentation. Next coach was Coach Gwen. So Coach Gwen, Boise, Idaho. She was a loan partner turned loan originator. Her best year, $91 million. She said she's never done less than $50 million, except for her first full year in the business where she only did $48 million.
Damn.
Yeah, she did $12 million her first year, but it wasn't a full year. It's only 10 months. Then her first full year, she did $48 million. So she went from $10 million to $48 million. She did so with a toddler and a newborn.
What's your excuse?
She did, correct. She did so without ever making a cold call. Now, it doesn't mean she didn't work crazy hours.
Right.
Yeah, but it was without a cold call. And something I loved about Gwen's story that she actually talks about in her podcast interview. So you want to go back and listen to that specific episode if you want to learn more from Coach Gwen. But she was talking about getting buy-in and making sacrifices. So she talked about the one time she had to make a sacrifice was sitting down with her at the time husband, figuring out how could she go all in on her career with a newborn and a toddler. And they looked at their budget and they realized they could afford a nanny, but not a full-time nanny, a nanny just 4 hours a day. So what she figured out she had to do in order to launch this business that she was so passionate about was she had to work from home. This is, again, before COVID. Work from home in the mornings where her mom would come over so her mom could keep an eye on the toddler and the newborn, and she worked. Then they could hire a nanny to come over from 1 to 5, and then her mom could go home, nanny take the kids, she could go into the office, and then her husband would be home at 5 o'clock, and then he would take the evening shift, and if she had to stay to the office till 7 or 8 or 9, she stayed in the office till 7, 8 or 9. It was a short period of sacrifice for a short period of time. The other thing she had to do is when she saw the writing on the wall in 2020, 21, that she was going to be able to make a lot of money. She sat down with her at the time, then husband, had a hard conversation. She says, look, I can make bank and go on this incredible run and you won't see me. Or I can let this opportunity pass and you'll see me every night. And she got spousal buy-in. He said, no, honey, I know how things come in spurts. If you have an opportunity to make it rain, go make it rain. And I was like, wow, what an incredible story. More people need to hear it. So you'll want to go tune into her episode that has come out or it's coming out. Keep checking back. Go to our YouTube channel. So anyhow, when Gwen stands up, what I love about Gwen is she herself has been coached for the past 5 years, but she hasn't been coached by some of the typical like mortgage coaches, all outside of the mortgage industry, leadership coaches. So I've rarely met someone who takes such a holistic approach to their business. She's very tactical. She's very detailed. Everything is written out and spelled out. So she sits down with her entire team, whether you're a loan partner, a loan officer, an LOA, or you're the rookie that they're bringing into the industry, an intern. Everyone has to buy into these 3 principles. And the first is here we grow. So they all rally around the phrase, here we grow. Everything they say is, okay, here we grow. It could be a moment of inflection. It could be a moment of pain. They all understand we are consistently in growth mode. That's very important to her. The other thing is we, the collective. She said it's her way of preaching and living extreme ownership. Everything is we, it's never I. It's never you, it's never me, it's always we. Hey, we did a great job. Look at this review that we got. Hey, we made a mistake here. Let's sit down and figure out what we need to do going forward. So when you go to work for Gwen, her first tenet is going to be here we grow. We rally behind it. The second thing is we, the collective. And she says these are all posted all throughout her office. And then the third is excellence is their standard. So they'll say to somebody, hey, was that excellence? Because if it wasn't excellence, go back and redo it. There's no like there's a saying from the movie, oh my gosh, with Gina Davis and Tom Hanks, the baseball movie during World War II, League of Their Own, where Tom Hanks tells Gina Davis' character, her sister's character, there's no crying in baseball, right? So she says like, there's no crying in the office. There's no finger pointing. Everyone knows that excellence is their standard. So when something isn't excellent, all you have to say to your counterpart is, hey, was that excellence? And that's someone's way of saying, no, I kind of half-assed it. Cool. Let's go redo it. And when you bring it back, it needs to be excellence. So I wrote down those 3 notes because I'm like, that applies not just to a mortgage originator or a branch manager. It applies to a company owner. Hell, it applies to somebody that's running a food truck that has 2 employees. It doesn't even have to be mortgage specific. And then when it comes to her clients, I'd never heard this before, but I loved the way she said it and it made so much sense. She says that when it comes to our clients, which are clients that we teach here at TLOP are typically referral sources, realtors, take a there you are approach instead of here I am approach. So too many times in sales, and you'll hear me using this a lot. I'm going to swipe and adapt the crap out of this. We love to show up to a sales call. We're like, oh, look at me. I'm so great. Look at my company. Look what I can do for you. And it's like, no, that's all about here I am. It all needs to be there you are. So when we approach somebody, it has to be all about them. How do I get them to talk more about them? How do I give them accolades or them gratitude or them compliments? Make your approach all about them. How can you bring value to them? Not what can they do for you? So loved that. And then the last thing that I had written down, which I had a ton of notes on Gwen, but in order to keep this episode concise and in order to push people to go and watch her specific episode, or better yet, reach out to us to figure out if Coach Gwen would be a great coach for you, it's clear is kind. Clear is kind. And I had to ask her, like, dive deeper, Gwen. Like, what do you mean clear is kind? She said, well, speaking clearly is kind. You don't leave your counterparty or your potential customer or client guessing. Giving clear instructions is kind. Clearly stating your intentions is kind. Clearly stating, so clear is kind. Everything we need to be abundantly clear, crystal clear even, and clarity also equals transparency. So clear is kind. You want to be a kind person. You want to win more favor, get people to like you, people to trust you. Be a clearer communicator. Be a more transparent business person. I was like, damn, I love that. Yeah. So that was Coach Gwen. Next up was Coach Rebecca. Now, many people know Coach Rebecca as the mortgage mentor, right? Look her up on IG, look her up on TikTok. 1/3 of her business comes from her social media following. And what's so cool about Rebecca when you get to know her is that she's a self-professed odd duck. She's always felt like she didn't fit. Like she was the odd woman out, which is crazy because we all know her from social and we're like, look at her. Mm-hmm. She's smart. She's cute. She has awesome hair. She's been super successful. Like I think she was saying that she went back-to-back years over 200 units. She said almost killed her, but she went back-to-back years over 200 units. She feels like she's found her sweet spot in the industry and she's the happiest she's ever been. In terms of like just that what BK talks about, that balance. So getting to know Rebecca more was phenomenal for me and the rest of the coaches. But what I learned from her is how to create your ideal avatar, right? She's like, so many of us are out there trying to help all people. And although we do help all people, we don't have to target all people. We don't have to market to all people. So she says when you're creating content, when you're creating marketing collateral, when you're out advertising your services, there's 3 avatars that she'll tell you to try to hone in on. The first one is help the person you used to be, right? So that worked for me for so much of my career. In the very beginning, I was a clueless home buyer because I was trying to buy my first house before I entered the mortgage industry. So I started creating marketing and content that I wished was given to me early on. As a mentor and a coach in this industry, I became a coach because I didn't have a great coach. I became a mentor because I thought my mentor was non-existent, no bueno, a total swing and a miss. That's what motivated me. She's like, so figure out who you used to be and start creating content to help those people. She said, then help who's currently active in the market. If you're in a market where everyone buying a home is people buying vacation homes, then you better start dominating that. The minute the market shifts and everyone buying a home are all first-time home buyers, you better start attracting that. But at some point, we have to be dynamic enough that we can pivot into what is happening in our market. And the example she always gives is if you loved working with first-time home buyers, good luck in 2021. Like those first-time home buyers couldn't afford to go $30,000 over asking. But you know who was buying? Real estate investors. You know who was buying? People buying second homes. All of a sudden, or people moving into the area for the first time. So her suggestion of 3 avatars, the first one is help the person you used to be. The second is help who is active in the market. And then her third is help who others don't want. So pick one. What is one thing that others don't want to do? Is it renovation lending? Is it construction lending? Is it bank statement loans? Like whatever the case it may be, is it physician loans? Pick one niche that is going to be yours. Don't pick 5, pick one. And then all of a sudden when you're making content, you have those 3 avatars that you can speak to. So for her, like I know one of her niches is divorce lending, right? And that wasn't always her thing, but then she went through a divorce. Like she shares this in her coaching stories. She went through her divorce and figured out, wait a minute, I now know a thing or two about divorce. Not just the legal aspect, but the emotional aspect, the financial aspect. All of a sudden she can start targeting those people that she feels like a lot of people don't want to touch. And she loves to touch them. And then the last thing I picked up from Rebecca that she said multiple times, I was like, oh, that is perfect. She said it once to us in the coaches retreat, and then she did it once on the fireside chat that we just happened to record from the coaches retreat, where she said, sharing about you personally does not have to be sharing about you privately. So like I can share,
Bless you.
excuse me, I can share bits and pieces of me without sharing the private parts of me. So people should know that I'm married. People should know that I'm a father. People should know my children are 17 and 20. People should know I love triathlons. People should know I love the Atlanta Braves and UCF. But within all of those dynamics, there are some really private things I don't need to share. I don't need to share what's going on in my child's life. I don't need to share how much money I do or do not donate to UCF. I don't need to share whether or not my marriage is the best marriage ever or we're going through a rough spot. Like that's private stuff. But she said too few times sales professionals and loan originators and mortgage brokers are so afraid of sharing private stuff that they won't share public stuff or personal stuff. And she's like, you gotta be personal when you're out marketing, when you're out selling. So, she just wants you to remember that all of us have 5 parts of our personality. All 5 parts need to be shared. So for me, again, I'm married, I'm a father, triathlons, Atlanta Braves, UCF. Like right there, I could throw in mortgage, I could throw in coaching, I could throw in podcasting. Hell, I could go to 8, 9, or even 10, but nowhere inside of that, just because I'm showing my personality or my personal side, do I really have to get private? So that was really good. So it's awesome having Rebecca on the staff. What I also love about Rebecca and this next coach, Coach Christie, both are mortgage brokers. And it's important to me that if I'm going to own a coaching company, that all of my coaches are in the trenches doing loans for a living. Look, I run production, but I haven't been inside of production for a couple of years. I sold my book of business. Now I can coach you how you can sell your book of business. I can coach you how to successfully run and operate one branch, multiple branches, right? These are all things I can coach you how to do your rookie LO program. I can coach you how to properly utilize a CRM to attract the talent that you desire, create the sales culture that makes you never have to recruit again. Right? Those are all things that I've mastered and dominated, but it's important that my coaches are all in the trenches. And it's also important that they make up male, female, East Coast, West Coast, broker, banker. So Coach Rebecca is a mortgage broker, just like Coach Christie is a mortgage broker. And what I love about Coach Christie is she is by far our hand-holding, let me give you a hug, pat you on the back, make you feel warm and fuzzy of the coaches. Like that is her role. She loves the book Ninja Selling. She recommends it to anyone that is in this industry. Her favorite things are wordsmithing. This is the coach who has written 2 books. She's getting ready to write her 3rd book. She is a emotional intelligence guru. She loves personality profiling so much that she's a certified DISC personality profiling instructor. So like she brings a ton of resources to the coaches, to me, as well as to all of our students, because personality profiling is something you need to do, especially when you're building a team, right? Because you don't want your loan partner to be just like you, right? So when you're hiring teammates, whether they're LOAs or loan partners, personality profiling really comes into play. Personality profiling also comes into play in lead conversion. Like I have to know what type of personality am I sitting in front of, and how do I need to change my communication, or as Christie says, my wordsmithing, so that that person all of a sudden starts liking and trusting me because I'm speaking their language using the right words. I can only do so if I can spot certain traits in their personality, put those traits to a profile, and now I can present, I can teach, I can educate, I can communicate to that particular profile. Her example would be, and she taught us this in her 15-minute presentation, the way she speaks to an engineer is not the way she speaks to an advertising executive. The way she speaks to a cop is not the same way she speaks to a teacher. And that if you don't learn that, what you'll see is that your lead conversion is a lot lower. You're building less trust, therefore you're converting less leads, therefore you're closing less loans, you're making less money. And then yes, some people know her as Credit Christie. I love having a credit expert on staff. And she loves coaching realtors. So we've always leaned on Christie to teach our community all of the other ways that they can bring value to the real estate community outside of the more traditional ways. Mm-hmm. And then she shares stories throughout her career about things that she's done that are always super cute, easy to execute, but I always leave thinking, man, why didn't I think of that? So it was cool to have Christie, and you'll appreciate this about Christie, John. She also does not like Chicago deep dish. She had never been to Chicago. She had it. We went to Lou Minaldi's, where most people love Lou's sauce. They love Lou's pies. And Christie was like, yep, I learned today that I do not like Chicago deep dish. That makes her, that makes you, and that makes me.
I'm proud of not being a sheeple. I've embraced it.
Have you?
Run the other way.
All right. And then last but not least, Coach Ross.
If you ain't ready to work, you ain't ready to talk to Coach Ross.
I swear to God.
Dude, I worked shit.
Yeah, and you know what I love about Coach Ross is like he truly is probably the anti-Coach Christie.
He is.
He is the anti-Coach Christie. But Ross, no one on the coaching staff has ever funded more units than Ross. 429 units.
That's more than one a day, averaging out.
429 units, and only 25% was refi. Think about that. Only 25% was refi.
So that means he's working probably a lot.
He worked so much that he deemed it not to be sustainable.
Yeah.
Sustainable, and he recognizes that it's not replicatable. However, even if you did half of what Ross did,
yeah, you'd still be amongst the stars.
You'd still be amongst the stars doing 214 and a half units.
What?
Yeah, I did that math quickly in my head for you, John. Like 200 units. So there's something to be said about his mannerisms. And what I love about Ross, and I think he tells this story in his podcast interview, but I'm going to tease y'all with it. Ross was so intentional with his desire to be the best that when he and his now wife went on their first date, he legit told her, hey, by the way, I'm really serious about my career, and I will end up needing to take a phone call, at which point I might not be back for half an hour. Just straight up let her know that, and she was fine with it. They went on the date. Obviously, they're married. They have 2 kids. Things appear to be going really well. But just that intentionality, or Ross's intentionality, he's like, he knew he wanted to be a banker since he was in high school. And when he graduated college and he couldn't get a banker position, it didn't stop him. He went and got the next best thing, which was working for a title company. Then after the title company, he recognized he didn't really have good sales skills. So then he went and learned how to sell through recruiting. Then when he got done learning how to sell with recruiting, he started as a loan officer assistant because he realized that for him, he wanted to have some technical background. Did the LOA job for 2 years before he went out on his own. But this is a guy that knew what he wanted to do when he was a teenager, yet he wasn't in a hurry. He put together a plan and he executed that plan. Part of his plan, which is not replicatable, homeboy was getting up at 3:30 in the morning and not going to bed till midnight, just about 7 days a week. Now today, he's 34 years old. He's got money saved, money invested. He's sitting pretty. But for those 7 years, he went all in. Today, he says he wakes up when the kids wake him up. And he still goes to the gym and he still puts in his work. But there's a lot that we all can learn from Ross. And when Ross teaches, he teaches everyone their magic formula. He says, we all have a magic formula. John, do you have a magic formula for what you're trying to achieve? Just like he had a magic formula. He executed his magic formula, but he doesn't try to push his magic formula on someone else. Mm-hmm. I was on a call with Dr. Stacy. Dr. Stacy's the head of our faculty. She's the dean of students. She's a fellow CMB. She's who runs the coaching, right? She is like who is in charge. I hired her to just make sure that we stayed a well-oiled machine, super organized. And she gets with our coaches one-on-one, and she helps them with their presentations to make sure that they're always top-notch, etc. But it was great getting feedback from both Mark and Dr. Stacy when they were talking about Ross. They're like, oh my God, you know where Ross shines? So every coaching call, remember, these are on Tuesday if you're a part of the community. every coach shows up and teaches from their playbook for about 30 minutes. But then we take Q&A. And they're like, Ross crushes it in his Q&A session. And Q&A is just people's opportunity to get whatever question they have of the day answered. It's like, what do you need? Like, I like to start every one of my coaching calls with tell me something good and tell me what you need. I want to celebrate successes. I want to get the momentum train rolling. And I want to make sure that if somebody has a pressing need, we address it. More times than not, it takes less than 10 minutes to address what they need. And more times than not, they're not the only person on the call who needed that exact thing covered. But then I go and teach my lesson. Then we open up the chat box and people to unmute themselves and raise their hands to ask questions. And they always talk about how great Ross is and that standpoint. But Ross has this acronym that he used to call POW. But because of this event, we call it POWER. We added an R. An R for Ross, an R for resiliency, and an R for repeat, or also an R for like reboot, right? It's like research what you did and refine it, right? So the R was reboot, refine. It could be anyone, Ross, refine, reboot, repeat, etc. But Ross tells anyone, if you want to be successful, you need POWE, and now we're adding the R. The P stands for persistence. Like, you gotta be persistent. Persistent with how you wake up, persistent on how many phone calls you make, persistent on how many times you ask for the business. Persistent. You gotta be organized. For Ross, he and his team use Trello like crazy. They don't need anything fancy. It's Trello and it works really well for them. But he said he can let you know how many times he's called a particular person, emailed a particular person, texted them, and he can give that data to any realtor who wants to know within minutes because it's all stored in their organizational chart. The W stands for work. He's like, dude, you got to work. It's a job. It's a job. So you got to get up. You got to put in the work. Like the leads and the loans don't just fall out of the sky. So you got to be willing to work. And I think that's something all of us as coaches have in common. We all at some point in our careers have put in a crazy amount of work. The best of the best became organized quickly. And then we've all stayed pretty persistent. And then finally, it's like the E is efficiency. He's like, if there's only so many hours in the day, how do I use those hours the most effective? How do I make sure I'm not wasting my time and I'm using my time in the highest and best use? So, and he told us all efficiency is something that comes over time. It doesn't happen overnight. He says persistence can happen overnight and working hard you can do that on day one. Organize is something you learn to do. Typically, no pain, no gain. You start feeling the pain of being disorganized. You force yourself to get organized. Once you're organized, you're working hard, you're persistent in your activities. He said then you start looking for efficiencies because you can't make any more hours in the day. And then finally, the R is refinement. And refinement is kind of where he is now in his life and in his business. Right now, Ross and his partner, Scott, are more focused on building out $1 billion region. Ross has had his loan partner take over. And Bren's now the face. I mean, Ross is still behind the scenes. Ross is still very involved, but he's no longer the face. Those 300 units that are going to fund this year, they're going to fund because Bren's going to make sure they happen because Ross is all about refinement. And refinement is how does he take what he's done and replicate himself? If you're reading John Maxwell's 5 Levels of Leadership, Ross at 34 years of age is trying to enter level 5 by replicating himself. I think he's probably sitting at level 4. And it may take he and Scott 5 to 15 years to ever get to level 5, but that's where his focus and his persistence are on. So that was like what I learned in those 48 hours of hanging out. And what was even cooler was seeing the bonds that they all formed and all of the idea sharing and all of the masterminding that happened, whether it's at 3 a.m. at the hotel bar that you all shut down, I heard about, or it was done in between innings at the Cubs game, or it was done while we were waiting for our scenic boat cruise to take off. Those coaches were nonstop sharing best practices with me as well as with others. And these are the same best practices that they are chomping at the bit to give to the entire industry as we as TLOP set out to shape the future of mortgage lending through TLOP's originator coaching. And John, it's all because of you.
I mean, technically it is.
It is. All because John Coleman was willing not to quit. He showed up.
I thought
he put in work.
Oh, yeah. I thought
you stayed organized.
Oh, I thought this was all because I got fired from EA and just randomly applied to a job, and here I am.
Well, yeah, as fate would have it, I thought you were let go after many rounds of layoffs. I mean,
I should have been fired a lot of times. But, when you hold dirt over a lot of high-ranking people, they tend to let you get away with a lot of shit.
Is that what it was? That was always your play?
I mean, they knew I knew, but I would never, snitch because they would never come to that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, but our coaches aren't trash, everybody.
They are not trash. They are great humans. They're even better. They're great originators, even better humans.
Yeah, they are really good people.
Which that was probably most important. And it was important for me to have my wife up there. Yes, she wanted to go to a Cubs game. Yes, her family all lives up there. Yeah. Yes, she visited them. But I wanted her to see what we've been doing behind the scenes, what she's been supporting behind the scenes. And I wanted her to see how awesome these humans were. So when I come home and I talk about them, she can put a face with a name and be like, yeah. So, no, it was awesome. And I'm just going to invite all of y'all, literally, come be a part of what we're doing. We don't bite, but we do give back. You have 4 different ways that you can come learn with us. You can join the community. It's the easiest. It's the lowest investment, the number one value. Okay. You can look at one of our boot camps. We have Originator Launch starting in September. This is going to be my 7th time teaching this class. It is our signature, guaranteed to take you to the next level of your business. We have elite coaching. That's when you can get one-on-one with either me or one of these 5 coaches I talked about today. When you do elite coaching, not only are you getting one-on-one attention, but you also have full access to the community. And then something new that we're going to be rolling out in 4th quarter is small group coaching. So small group coaching is not new. A lot of the other coaching companies offer something very similar, but when the coaches got together, they felt like we needed something that wasn't a boot camp. Because I'll tell you, my boot camp is great for anybody who's not already generating 30 leads a month, who's not already funding 4 or 5 loans a month. Do the Launch boot camp. But if you're already there and you don't want the elite coaching, but you still want something that's more personalized, small group coaching will be a more affordable investment than elite coaching. You will be in a group of your peers, but it'll still be intimate enough that you're getting that one-on-one attention. Mm-hmm. But look, if you're not in a place where you're ready to start investing your money into your future success, I get it. It's okay. It doesn't mean you can't come learn with us. Here's 3 ways you can continue to learn with us. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's not just a place to watch the podcast, but it's also a place where John is dropping every Wednesday either a free sales training video or a free coaching video. You can sign up for our newsletter. Once you sign up for the newsletter, which you do on our website, tloponline.com, you sign up for our newsletter. Not only do you get my sales tips and my market updates every single week emailed to you, but we are going to invite you to join one free masterclass every single month. So if you're not ready to invest, we're fine with that, but don't be not ready to at least take care of what is free 50 or free 99, which is the YouTube channel, which is the newsletter, as well as the masterclass that you get access to once you sign up for the newsletter. And then finally, sharing is caring. Make sure you share this with a friend or 5, especially those that are in the mortgage industry, and keep checking back. Connect with us. I'm first name Dustin, last name Owen on LinkedIn. We are at the Loan Officer Podcast on Instagram. He's John Coleman, but you'll never find him on social media. That's why you have me, your boy Dio. On that note, y'all, that's all the time we have for you today. He's John Coleman. I'm Dustin Owen, but we do look forward to catching you on the next episode. Peace.